Okay, so Rebecca's story is just a little too long. Not only is it too long, you also had to repeat scenes from previous sections of the game. And then the conversation she had with Luke in the school hallway was like the longest scene in this whole game. That in itself, if you take that section out of this game, you can turn it into its own visual novel. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do, so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him if he's shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
No more words. After everything I've seen and I heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over his car. Stomp over to his car. Although before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again,
Becca, listen. I don't know how else.
that much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
This silence I cannot offer him. But whenever I believe what he's about to say is still up for debate, a very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now, especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at my mention of the name. But whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in a stiff note of his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
It doesn't say here. It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that? Care to explain your reasons?
Care to explain your reasons?
It's a plus. I've not meant for it to sound as harsh as it does, but anger and frustration have never been a good match in me, particularly in nights like this. It's not surprising when Ashton jerks back, as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing in tightly into a fist at his sides. Then swiftly, he glances away and shifts his focus on the line of trees nearby, like an answer can be gleaned from the dark expanse.
I'm really sorry, Becca.
What is it for? For the party? The vague answers he continues to give. Does it include all of those times before this? The years worth of it? I don't doubt its sincerity. However, at the moment, the forgiveness he's asking isn't something I'm all too willing to hand, furious as I am. It's frankly a wonder how I can keep myself from raising my voice at him.
We'll talk about this tomorrow, and you better have a proper answer for me by then.
There's a brief hesitation before I step away, a short moment of wanting to say more, of waiting if he has anything to add. He's only silent, eyes still trained at a distance. It is the last glimpse I see of him before I climb inside his car. Yet the door slams close with the same force as the anger I am holding. Its sound merely vanishes into the night, unnoticed. Rebecca found Ashton waiting for her upon exiting the mansion. Irked because he was nowhere to be found during the entire party, she demanded to know what was going on. When he couldn't give her an answer, Rebecca warned that they'd still talk about it some other time. He followed soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet, even with cities' bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salemwell. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away, purely out of spite, the second I've gotten off. Still, all habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Ooh, time to fucky. Irritation might still rear its head. Every time I look at him right now, but I'm not. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now. But I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that.
Oh, she wasn't finished talking.
But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance, but why did she give him the keys to her apartment when she's also going back to her apartment? And it's kind of weird. He does give me another questioning glance when I show past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
Oh.
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight that I can't just leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happened that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted.
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go, and you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Bill gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
Wow. The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered, and he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by light banter. Why is she not asking for his car key though? Because I know her car's not working right now. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring after him. There's something in the way he asks it that nags, coupled with his expression. The whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shifts my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrews' number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton is not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what, though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrews' voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Rebecca, it's late.
Yeah, calling people at 1 a.m.
What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is This is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake, and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.
Professor Andrew has agreed to meet me 2 days later, in front of Luxbourne's public library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the Armor God Mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they are keeping here beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with that kind smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long. But it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew.
Rebecca, didn't I say long ago you could drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right. But just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
Permit? He hands me the permit without further prompting. What? And just like he promised, he's also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough to get me to those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed, the very face of curiosity. Not surprising, considering how vague I've been during our little talk over the phone. Right then and there, I've decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe not all of it, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asked.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner. But may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the God Mansion, sir.
He's quick to raise an eyebrow at that, and for a while I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something in what I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but they couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't? Luxborn's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful, distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents and the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze. Uh-oh, me too. The gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to a cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in this grand scheme of things now, all of it feels oddly relevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor, in particular. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end, poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the microfiche room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter. Breathing is a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Oh no, not the bridge. Why, of all things, it has to be that silly nursery rhyme. I have not an inkling. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough for a distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless, by some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who has been affected by this, what do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this had we only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do of what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microfiche of old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. Before the city of Luxborn even exists in the records, when the mansion has just been built, and Anselm is nothing more than but a small, sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome, but as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
The faint whir of the microfiche machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing of praises for the couple who helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while. Until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Anselm might have loved Lord William and Lady Elizabeth Ormangard, mourning their passing, and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What? What's surprising, though? Free at last, Eyre put a stop to local slave trade. Apparently, her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say. But she seems capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt, it's what eventually grew to become Luxbourne City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms in my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, paper, and journal I've read. None of those ever mention this. It's always the lord and the lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those anecdotes, the one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. It is because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. Not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally delve into unpleasant territory, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life, which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration would start resembling her? But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It should not work that way. I'll be a laughing stock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing my palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. The motion is no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much mess anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides, something catches my attention. My hand pauses, the microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the dials in search of the page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, they must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. Avant-garde hair announces betrothal. Betrothal. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate. Their likeness, likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing next to her, Edward Godfrey, according to the article, that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself, or maybe it's the shape of his eyes, though I can't be too certain about that until I've gotten a better reference. Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day, I'd march upstairs and reprimand whoever it is. It's not your job.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps? Or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon, I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, if only to stave off a headache building up from everything. Sometime I've even began humming the same song again, for comfort, despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders. With the help of Professor Andrew Clark, Rebecca was able to gain access to Lexbourne Library's restricted section. In there, she discovered numerous accounts about the avant-gardes, all hidden from the public. Her research was interrupted, however, when... This may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, its sounds isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. A feeling. A chilly brush of air behind my back. Brief enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again, creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without delay, I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. Oh my god, my whole body freezes. Ika. I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by a cold, seeping dread spreading throughout my limbs. But more than that fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. Anything to put a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself, because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scared me? Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting. I'm not afraid of you. You spooked
Legal rave. All of a sudden, she got a Scottish accent.
Come at me!
I expect that she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me, a smile, twisted and gnarled. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the side of it. A split-second decision. And before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people. Oh my god, is there even a place safe enough I can escape? Don't go upstairs, because then you'll be trapped, so head for the door. If there's one, it is out of this room, out of this place, as far as anyone can get from her. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, when there are other people I can ask for help, when she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race for the restricted section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight for the library's exit, towards safety. In a desperate bid for my life, library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. A breath almost escapes me as I near the door. A little more, when out of nowhere, a library cart careens from a blind corner and slams my sides. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit's almost there, only I can, but there's no moment's respite. Oh my god! The next thing I know, there's heavy weight atop me, and cold digits sliding around my neck, tight with a vice, pressing, closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam, the spite in her eyes as she looms over my body, and her grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrist as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away.
Let me go!
Keep the slide in the green bar by moving the mouse and the arrow. Okay. I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did could fully register in my brain and my lungs could recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp, loud, and thunderous against the empty halls of the library. But the fear her wails bring compares nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it out. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hits the pavement. Its surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been there for a few hours, about 1 or 2, probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to go after going through that. I probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now, out of breath, disheveled, slumped here with a bloodied limp and all. But at present, I simply can't bring myself to care, even when a few passers-by start giving me strange looks. Stare at me all you want. I don't give a single shite. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's still something. Isabella is here. I'm sure she'll feel the same if Isabella is here. She'll even be the first one who'll put her faith on it. Wherever this will lead us to is a victory on its own. Now all that's left is to find the others, the rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if in answer to my previous thought, my mobile phone lets out a beep. I pick it up, simply hoping it'll be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me, from Ashton. There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurances that nothing's happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there, the message less than a minute long, curt and gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries, regardless and do as he asked. Because this too is not a triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Rebecca was seen limping out of Luxbourne Public Library late Sunday morning. Checking her mobile, a lone voicemail from Ashton was in it, telling her that they need to talk ASAP. Ashton, 29. He's American Japanese, non-practicing Christian. Taiyaki ice cream, Shirley, Ophelia, old-timey action movies and thrillers. I guess Shirley Ophelia is like some kind of alcoholic concoction. Kart racing, jazz and swing, Sherlock Holmes, justice. There was little love between his parents, and though he grew up privileged, he found little joy in student life. He saw the standard testing system as a chore and considers his popularity among his peers to be an annoyance. Rebecca was the only one he considered a friend in St. Goretti, and he was no better when he went into university. If anything, his indifferent look got worse with his parents' divorce. He initially took law, but was quickly disillusioned by how heavy-handed and abusive the system was. And abused the system was. Forensic science, on the other hand, became fascinating for him. He served a brief time as a police officer before he applied to join Luxbourne's Criminal Investigation Department. Early on, he was too eager to deal out justice, but his numerous years in service became quite a learning experience for him. Now, as a detective inspector, he's been assigned to this biggest case yet. It's interesting that you play Luke as the final character. Parties have never been really my thing. They're always such a hassle and takes so much time off my day. Prior plans and commitments cancelled, all for the sake of playing along with others.
Welcome everyone.
I hated them even as a child.
Please make yourselves at home.
But Mom often insisted. She'd slick my hair back, put me in one of those stuffy dinner jackets, and if there were any children around, urged me to make friends. Never mind how utterly loud or tedious it was. It was all for the sake of keeping up appearances. To some extent, lies have already surrounded me, long before I've chosen what I wanted to do in my life. Luckily, there were easy ways to tune everything out, and much to my mom's frustration, I always managed to sneak my CD player along. I kept to myself and to my music, had my own little world, until I learned to observe. It's a simple matter of awareness, really. And for someone with keen eyes, a skewed necktie or simple flick of wrist alone could tell volumes about a person. I still don't like parties, especially ones as big and fancy as the Wright's housewarming. However, when there's actual reason to go to them, I figure they're not that bad.
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Be careful with Shirley. Besides, like it or not, it's part of the job. I'm here on a mission. One that has the name Luke Wright plastered all over it. You'd think the man would want to remain inconspicuous after his name was linked to several high-profile crimes across Luxembourg. You'd think the man would want to remain inconspicuous. Okay, I've already read that. Granted, most of it have gone cold over the years, having stagnated without any lead or evidence. But that doesn't make him any less suspect. And here he is, throwing a party in his own backyard. Although, having observed the man this past year, I'm not even shocked. He craves it, the damn spotlight. Constantly yearns for attention like a neglected puppy. It doesn't take a genius to figure out why He's nowhere to be found in his own party. But that's not the problem here. What pisses me off is how far his reach extends, how close he has creeped into the lives of the people I care about. Again, like a stubborn itch you couldn't be rid of. First Professor Clark, then there's Isabella. I also spotted Z-Man here a while ago, and now there's also Rebecca. Apparently.
Ashton?
Becca, what are you doing here?
I was invited.
Really? I had no idea you were friends with the host.
That explains things. It makes this difficult all the same. As if greeting a contact among the staff to sneak a name into the guest list isn't hard enough. The guy almost ditched me last night and might have placed another setback on my investigation. It wasn't for my generous tip. Then here comes Rebecca, another person to mind.
Well, it's my parents, actually. But that's beside the point. What are you doing here? You hate parties.
I still do. I'm just here on behalf of a friend.
A necessary lie. I can't bring my own friends into this any further than they have found themselves in. Because if Luke Wright so much as harms a hair in either Zach's or Rebecca's heads, there will be hell to pay. Worrying about Isabella's brief dealings with him is stressing in itself already. I doubt he'll attempt anything in front of other people, though. It would tarnish his glorious reputation, and he values appearances more than anything else. That doesn't necessarily mean he isn't capable of it. More than that, in fact. And on the off chance he does something, I wouldn't be responsible for my actions.
That's rare. Do you have someone with you then?
Nope, just me. I won't be staying long.
Well, if that's the case, maybe you and I can...
For Zach's and Rebecca's sakes, however, I really hope this will simply be another housewarming. Even though something tells me it's anything but. Call it a detective's intuition or whatever. When Luke Wright's involved, nothing good has ever come out of it. I can't let my guard down here. Even more so when a familiar car slows to stop and out comes...
Chief?
My presence here might be odd at best, but I have an excuse. One that this man handed to me himself a year ago, along with a heavy dose of flattery for the newly promoted detective inspector. Can't exactly say the same for my good old boss, can I? Although, to see him here chatting it up with Luxborn's rich and famous isn't such a big surprise in itself. No disrespect meant, but the guy is obviously a social climber. What is surprising is the fact that he seems all too eager to mingle with a person of interest's wife. Just what the hell is going on here?
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca. I need to... There's something I need to check for a bit. I'll talk to you later. Do you have a ride home?
No, I had to take a cab here. My car wouldn't start this afternoon. But what about...
What the shit is going on here?
I told you to get that old thing checked before, didn't I? You can head back with me after this. Anyway, I gotta go. See ya. Be careful, okay?
Hey, be careful! About what exact...
I don't want to draw attention to myself either. At least not until he's given me proper reason to spoil his little party.
Thank you for the invite, Anna.
Thank you for the invite.
Husband still missing, I see.
I should be saying the same of your darling Rochelle Lee. The doctors again.
For now, the best I can do is wait and remain inconspicuous, especially with Chief here, whose motives are dubious at best. If it means having to pretend I don't know Zach and Rebecca, or forcing myself to rub elbows with people I barely know, let alone like, then so be it. I can't involve anyone. Wandering is out of the question as well, when there are guards and civvies stationed here and there. Sure, getting past them is something I could do with ease, but I'd rather not right now. When I'm one of the few snooping and roaming about, it would be best to try and do so once there's a crowd of people. And if their interior designer's drunken claims are to be believed...
Yes, well, wasn't that Luke? Should we file a missing persons report now, or do you want to wait 24 hours?
He's around.
You know, I can tell if someone's bluffing.
It'll all come down to how well I'll play the cards tonight. With a good hand, this party is going to give me the breakthrough I need to crack Luke right, or something to prove my suspicions wrong. Maybe find out what kind of game my boss is also playing. I had an inkling before, a few hunches, tempered down by how much of a bumbling fool the man appears. But one does not simply deal with the rights and get invited to a party they host, without wanting anything from either of the two. Or it's the other way around. So, with a last wary glance at the two, I head into the ballroom. I just hope this will not complicate things further. Shit. By the time the party's in full swing, night has fallen. Yet there still isn't a Luke Wright in sight. The man can be quite ostentatious, but this, frankly, I'm impressed. I don't even know how many hors d'oeuvres I've already stuffed my face with. Well, those actually look pretty delicious. One too many, probably. The server's already giving me a stink eye every time I saunter over the buffet table. Blame your employer, not me. He's the one who has the guts to show up late. Besides, most of the guests' idle talk is concentrated in this area, despite standing under the same roof with the very people they're whispering about. Some just couldn't resist. I might as well keep an ear out for any useful info.
Is Suarez still fixing that tech problem? Tech problem?
It's been 3 years. Sooner or later, the Blighter will put 2 and 2 together.
You might have already.
If the red tape I'm being slammed with these past few months suggests anything, that or someone has been pulling the strings, I wouldn't be shocked. This case would not have gone this long if Scumbag didn't have a mule of some kind in the force.
Shush you, we all know Suarez just wants an out.
I knew he was bad news the day the merger with Evans Incorporated happened. Fair.
Glad I did not have to deal with that. But keep it down, someone might hear. The wife especially.
This kind of negligence has always been an advantage, but sometimes I wish I could be smashed drunk while doing this. Having sharp ears also means you get to hear the most unsavory things. Who cheated on who this week? One person's motive for bashing another's skull against the wall, or a father's excuse for burning his own daughter alive, that sort of stuff. What? After a few years, it gets tiring. You get desensitized to it. But humans could also be downright awful. Sometimes there simply isn't enough brain bleach in the world. Sadly, the wine is a no-go tonight, mostly for show. I'm up for another drive later, for one, and I definitely want to be sober in case anything comes up. And something always comes up in assignments like this. A detective inspector dying of cardiac arrest, for example. Because I can feel the moment my heart grinds to a halt, the second I shift my eyes to a corner of the ballroom.
Hannah Wright.
Some will say I'm acting a touch bit paranoid. Maybe I am. This is a party and she's the hostess. It goes to say she'd take time to mingle with her guests. But Hannah Wright, nee Evans, isn't without her fair share of accolades. At least to the public, she doesn't seem like it. Unlike her husband, she's the one with the business sense, not to mention the impressive track record needed to manage a company, or effectively hide whatever irregularity there might be. She's clean, as far as my agents and I found out, but it doesn't rule out a possible involvement with whatever her husband's up to. Hell, Luke Wright came out clean in previous reports until I bothered to take a deeper look into it. What I found may not be sufficient to bring anyone to trial. yet, but it's enough to nurture suspicion. This may be a bit of an overreaction, but no one lasts so long in my line of work by being careless.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Nothing to be worried about then. She's probably even more careful with appearances than her own husband, having grown up with the spotlight focus on her. Yet, even knowing that, the anxiety stays. Has been there since the party started. I brushed it off earlier. Who wouldn't feel edgy, right? I've gone undercover in a party hosted by the very person I'm investigating. That in itself is risky, and has plenty of rooms for error. Usually, though, the tension passes around the first half hour or so. I've been trained to remain composed in situations like this. However, with each second I spend here, it only grows heavier and seeks to overwhelm. An odd feeling that someone is watching me instead. It has been like this since last week, but I should already be used to this. People would be looking at me, no matter how small or big of a blip I am on their radar. That's what they do in these things. But when the feeling of eyes burning into my back lingers longer than necessary, I've been looking around every now and then to catch the culprit. No luck, and despite my efforts to push the sensation as far down as I could, tiny pinpricks continue to sting the back of my head, and the ghost of a cold touch creeps up my limbs, until my gaze switches back to Rebecca and Hannah Wright. She stands there, dark-haired and dirty, sticking out like a sore thumb. Even so, no one seems to notice. Although she's looking away from me, her mere existence here strikes, disturbs. A sense of tunnel vision binds while I stand stock still and gape at her, like my life depends on making sure she stays where she is. I feel trapped in her presence until another guest bumps into me, yanking me out of my stupor. Only then do I realize that I've been holding my breath. Before I could figure out what happened, she's gone. A quick scan of the room yields no sign of her. The party continues as if nothing's amiss. I'm not really one to judge, but I'm sure someone like that would not have been allowed in a fancy thing like this. What has the security been doing? Are they really that incompetent for someone so distinct to easily get in without notice? There should have been an outcry by now, particularly from the host. She's been standing almost arm length away from that woman, and yet she simply continues her talk with Rebecca.
Oh, the professor! And your little Becky!
My parents couldn't make it since they're in Scotland right now. And Mom says hi, by the way.
Is there something in the food then that I'm starting to see things? It could have been the wine, though I'm every bit as sober as when I first stepped off my car. The hors d'oeuvre? Why would anyone want to do that? Why would Luke Wright want to do that? He's fishy. Oh, he's very fishy. But I couldn't see why he'd ever think it would be a good idea to lace the food he'd serve in this party with someone like Chief Lee on his guest list to boot. He has been linked to narcotics trade, yep. However, that kind of tactic is below him. That much I could tell. Unless there's a mass murder waiting to happen here tonight, which I highly doubt. So,
What the fuck was that?
there's no time to look deeper into this, even if I want to. Not when a telling silence comes upon the room and draws everyone's attention to the main doors of the ballroom.
About damn time.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the right mansion.
I've been tailing this guy for a while now. Before that, I heard stories from previous officers who tackled this case, none of which are pleasant. Mind, I'm not counting the incident with Professor Clark, yet pleasant is glossing over the gravity of it. While Wright's good at covering whatever shady stuff he's doing, he's shown to be a really rotten guy. At least that's the case when he thinks none of his peers are around to judge him. I've lost track of how many counts of verbal abuse and harassment cases the guy could be pinned with. Fuck, he even tried to make a move on Isabella back in the open house, right in front of his wife. Standing in the same room as him doesn't make me want to punch him any less. Actually, the urge is stronger, but protocols, in my case. First and foremost, my own opinion of the man shouldn't get ahead of my purpose here. If I want to put him in his place, it should be in court, with all proper charges filed against him. And I'll be able to do that once I get enough evidence to pin this bastard down.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen. If you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
Suppressing my annoyance, I prepare to step away from the crowd. Amidst the cheers and claps, now's a good time as I need to move. Try to find that something that McCulloch woman talked about. In the first place, I have no plans to actually shake hands with the slime ball himself. The fake smile is plastered on my face while I pretend to listen to one of the other guests gossiping about him, all while slowly inching out of the ballroom. Unfortunately, if I could get any further...
Are you feeling ill, Rochelle? Perhaps you need to sit down and...
Rich people only have two ways to resolve their mess. Either they quietly deal with it behind closed doors, or they create an even greater problem out of it, and it just blows up in everybody's faces, one way or another. Fun.
No! Shut it, you mother! I ain't talking to you! I'm talking to this scumbag over here! You bloody bastard standing there with your smarmy smile!
Not even a few seconds in, and this is already proving itself to be a public spectacle. Why spend money on a television to buy daytime soap operas? You could just go to one of these parties and see the action unfold in real life. You get free food, too. Really, if I were an actual guest, I'd just take this as some sordid form of amusement.
Watch your tongue! You're on thin ice, Rochelle. Where's your husband? Who even invited you?
But I'm not a guest who's here for a good time. I need to focus on him, even though my through this whole story tale. So I wait, I listen, I observe. Interesting, isn't it, though? That's the chief inspector's wife. The morning after starts off quiet. Even the whole Salamwell residences seems unusually still. The open hallway, when I step out, is devoid of tenants. No sounds coming from the other units either. It's almost as if something's brewing on the horizon. A peaceful night's sleep still does wonders for the mood, though. I can't even remember the last time I've slept without anything urgent interrupting. It's a nice break from all the bad news lately. If it wasn't for the insistent buzzing in my pocket waking me up, I'd sleep in. The ringing has stopped before I could move somewhere private, but sleep has also been effectively kicked out of my system by then. Pity. I could use a little more rest, but I have to face the other storm. Of course, I owe Rebecca an explanation. It doesn't matter if it's the whole truth or another hastily spun tale. Although I haven't really figured out how to go about this yet. Unlike Zach and Isabella, who don't usually ask questions and are content with what little I could share, Rebecca's rather quick on the trigger. It will have to be set aside for later, though.
Soft bomb Ash from D-Lux City. Baggers watch out, can't beat me. Looking for trouble? Better not lie. I'm a cool dude, pretty fine for an Asian guy. Soft bomb Ash from D-Lux City. Baggers watch out, can't beat me. Looking for Soft Bob Ash from D-Lux City. Baggers, watch out. Can't beat me. Looking for trouble? Better not lie. I'm a cool dude. Pretty fine for an Asian guy. Soft Bob
The
Ash
chief's
from
name
D-Lux
stares
City.
back at me,
Baggers,
almost
watch
as if
out.
it's
Can't
mocking
beat
me.
me. Looking for
Sad.
trouble? Better not lie. I'm a
It
cool
would have been
dude.
nice to
Pretty
just chill
fine
after
for an
last
Asian
night,
guy.
maybe half listen to the
Soft Bob
news.
Ash from D-Lux
Sure, it's the
City.
same thing we've been
Baggers,
hearing
watch out.
lately.
Can't
Still
beat me.
beats standing
Looking for
outside in the
trouble?
city
Better
Lex
not lie.
chilly
I'm a
Lexborn
cool
morning
dude. Pretty fine
on the
for an
phone with
Asian
my
guy.
boss.
Soft Bob Ash from D-Lux
Sighing, I
City.
answer it,
Baggers, watch
if
out.
only to get
Can't
this
beat
over
me.
with.
Ray, where are you right now?
Now that's a tone I didn't expect from him at this hour. Just thinking how this will go after already gives me a headache. Immediately, I reach up and pinch the bridge of my nose to stave it off.
This is why I won't ever drink myself senseless.
What was that?
Nothing, Chief. A pleasant morning to you too.
He's probably calling to rag on me or complain about his wife. Which is really none of my business unless it affects my case. It seems like the usual rich man cheats on wife deal. Although I would have followed up on it if it were somebody else's wife. But figuring it's Chief's, hey, I trust him to come clean if the missus is related to the Wright's shady dealings. This is why I left before they even hauled the woman out last night. I'm not going to go around investigating cheating husbands and wives when it's probably just that. Chief appears to have a different idea in mind, though.
There's nothing pleasant in the morning. Anyway, where are you? I told you millions of times before to keep your lines open.
He did, and not only him. Zach, Rebecca, Isabella, all of them have said the same thing numerous times in the past. But I was undercover last night. A phone call was the last thing I want to happen when there are other things I need to focus on at the time. Besides, we have radios and work-related issued phones. Why isn't he using those channels if this is urgent?
Just woke up, sir. As awesome as it is to hear your voice this morning, it really is early. If you could give me a few minutes just to wake myself up, that'd be swell.
No need for that. This won't take long.
Is something wrong? Am I needed at the precinct ASAP?
Oh no, everything's good over there. Just look, kid. Pray. Don't take this personally, alright? You're off the Luxborn firm case. Start today.
Well, I did not expect to hear that either. This must be some kind of a cosmic joke. I allow some awkward seconds to pass. Chief must be pulling another one of his awful pranks. Out of his bad mood or a severe hangover, maybe? Everyone knows that when given the chance, he exercises no control with his drinking. If it wasn't for his wife causing a stir, he'd probably be trashed an hour in after at the party. He likely drank more after they threw her out of the ballroom. Besides, his sense of humor has never been good. It's just infuriating most of the time. But when he doesn't follow it up, if I sound a tiny bit frustrated speaking to my own superior, I'm not the one to blame.
Wait, no. What? Are you kidding, Chief? Is this one of your practical jokes again? The temps won't say anything about it, but I...
It's not that. They're orders. From the higher-ups.
Ah, the higher-ups. Yes, my favorite word. Since when did the higher-ups ever cared about what the criminal investigation department did? As far as I could tell, they don't give a hoot if CID is filled with cold cases as long as we keep the spending low. When I need to view those old case files, though, they're locked away in the archives. You're gonna have to check with the higher-ups. I need access to these reports, see if the higher-ups would allow it. Every step, every move in this case. There isn't one that hasn't been gated by some authority. If it's not the chief, it's the commissioner. So they always tell me. It makes one wonder why they even bothered assigning it to anyone. Not a single one of them has done anything to help move the case. And they wonder why it has taken this long for even a hint of progress to show.
You can't just drop this on me. You can't just take me off like that.
Yes, I can. And I'm sorry, Ashton. You're a good detective. One of the best I've seen in years, but
3 years, Chief. 3 years.
3 years since that anonymous tech leak blew up. Since Luke Wright's name was openly linked to several nasty dealings within Luxborn's corporate world. Some of them involving deaths. 3 years and I was the only one who's made it this far. Made much progress that officers with more experience weren't able to do when they handled this case. Just within a year and with barely any help from the damn brass at that. Of course I'd be pissed.
Do you know what would have happened if I didn't work my ass off on this thing? If I didn't dedicate a whole year of my time on it, it would have gone cold. Like every fucking case Luke Wright has been linked to. I saved this from getting thrown into the archives, sir. I'm getting close. If you could just...
I'm fully aware of what you've done, Frey, but the Commissioner hasn't been happy with your progress. Still too slow by their standards.
Too slow? Well, what about those reports I filed? I've documented every freaking thing for them. I've given you every important lead I can gather. Isn't that enough?
They need results, not a bunch of research papers. Not one baseless assumption after another. Concrete proof, Frey. I'm really sorry. They've already made a decision. They're going to pass this on to someone who's been in the force longer. Someone who has more experience.
Someone who has more experience?
They meant nothing by it, but you're still too young to work on a case this big.
Chief, I've already done more than what those old farts ever did behind their desks. All of it, within just a year of being assigned to this.
Watch your language, Frey. Those are your superiors,
I'm not some damn rookie fresh out of training. I'm as qualified as they are.
Futile. I know it is. They'd never say it within earshot, but from the very minute I stepped into their precinct, a lot of them had underestimated me, from their stares alone to the assignments I get. To them, I'm still just a kid. Too young, too green, too inexperienced. And once they pull that card on me, every argument I have gets thrown out of the window. No matter how logical it is, how much I've accomplished, what the records say, or the amount of work I've put in every investigation they've thrown my way.
We're all aware of your skills, kid. You wouldn't have that badge and rank if you weren't good enough. However, this case is just not for you. Too high profile, too risky to put a good officer like you in harm's way.
Can he even hear himself? That reasoning is odd in itself. No one joins this line of work without knowing the dangers in it.
Don't I get a second chance? You said it yourself. I'm a good detective. It'll just be a matter of time before we can close this.
It doesn't matter what I think, Frey. You're off the case, and that's final. I expect all related files and documents on my desk by Monday morning. And don't even try to go touch anything. I know how hard-headed and determined you are.
Chief, please. A few more weeks. I'll have the proper evidence left on your desk by then. I swear it won't take longer than that.
Fred, it's too late, boy. I've already informed the other officers. You aren't to be allowed access until you've been given a new assignment. Help just keep out of the precinct, Frey. Take the weekend off.
Seriously, Chief, is this about last night? If this is about me being at that party, I have a good reason for...
You were at the party.
It makes me pause. His wary tone, then sudden careful note in his voice. Slowly, a frown forms on my face, my eyebrows knitting together in confusion. Much as I hate to say this about my own boss, there's also suspicion in it. Hard not to think of it that way, seeing how he acted around Hannah Wright last night. Is he worried? Why should he be? Everyone who's everyone was invited. I didn't doubt for a second why he received an invite, even if his presence was questionable. There's something wrong and I have unintentionally walked into it. All I have is this sneaking suspicion, but when one look at this from a different angle, put everything together. Why the hell I've been taken off the case might be for the same reason he was there in the first place. Fuck.
Yes, Chief, I was. For a good reason. What were you doing there? I know we don't have a strict rule against attending functions, but that was...
He coughs and it almost sounds like he's choking on his own excuses? Lies? I don't want to excuse him of anything yet. He's someone I've respected since I joined LPD, even with his bizarre sense of humor and tendency to procrastinate. He's obviously competent enough to get the job done. He wouldn't be the chief inspector of Luxborn Police if he wasn't. He wouldn't have last years in service without some track record backing him. Unless that, too, is a fluke, and what's backing him is not something, but someone? Oh. Oh, shit. Fucking hell. Fucking shit.
Chief Harvey, about last night with the...
Why does it matter, Frey? This isn't about that.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter? I'll recite the whole damn oath we've taken upon being sworn into office if I can, but at this point it seems too late to remind him of that. He has probably already moved from serving and protecting people to serving and protecting his own interests. Damn it. I've suspected upper brass of this, even the lower rank subordinates in the force, but from my own boss. Shit, no wonder the leak didn't lead anywhere. Everyone closer might have been pulling the strings. I might have been set up to fail long before the fucking case had been assigned to me. But I don't want to just give this up. I don't want to believe I've wasted an entire year for this. I don't want this to be the kind of news to tell Professor Clark after all those promises I've given the man.
I just want to know, sir, at the party, with Luke and Hannah Wright, you were...
Monday, Detective Inspector. First thing in the morning. Every copy of the files you have, I want to see it all on my table, understood?
This isn't...
Frey, am I understood?
What else can I do than smile and nod? With my own superior expecting an answer, using that tone, brushing my questions off as easy as discarding a dead body.
Yes. Yes, sir.
He cuts the line as soon as the words are out. You're off the case, Frey, just like that. Funny why this still caught me off guard. I've discovered years ago how different the actual thing is, how far from reality everything I believed in as a dreamy-eyed kid. There are no high-speed pursuits every day, no thrilling gunfights or exciting cases every step of the way. Only paperwork, lots of red tape, and dealing with the politics and bureaucracy. I've set out to change things, hoping it will make things better for the people I care about. It ended up changing me instead. Ashton Frey received a phone call from the chief of Luxbourne Police first thing in the morning, informing him that he had been taken off the Luxbourne firm case. Although his protest fell on deaf ears, this sudden turn of events provided a hunch. Serves me right for being too idealistic, I guess. This is probably the universe telling me that it's better to remain the skeptic I really am. Now here I am, standing useless, can't even do anything but grit my teeth and kick the wall. The bastard didn't even acknowledge my response.
What did the poor wall ever do to you?
It figures Rebecca would be the one to find me in this embarrassing state. Honestly, I don't like it when she sees me like this, which seems to happen a lot, regardless of what I want.
Rebecca, now's not a good time.
The concern I expect from her when I turn isn't there, however. Instead, she just looks, well, the storm I left brewing last night. It's right there on her face, ready to be unleashed.
When is it ever a good time for you? You're always so busy with everything now. Now I find you here, sneaking out without even bothering with a proper goodbye. Not even a word. Really, I'm starting to think you're just keeping me around for my couch and my cooking.
Becca, it's not what you're thinking. I wasn't planning on sneaking out. I was going to say goodbye. I just had to take this call. Although I'm not gonna lie, couch is great. 10 out of 10. Wouldn't sleep again.
Stop it with the jokes, Ashton. I'm not in the mood.
Her bitterness is not lost on me, but at this point, our friendship in our lives, how does she still expect to answer that? What am I supposed to tell her now?
Are you still mad about last night?
She merely raises an eyebrow at me, which, to be honest, is all the response I need. Seeing her like this makes me believe those things Z-Man says, part where Rebecca scares him, sometimes. I've certainly seen this more than once already. But the familiarity of it doesn't really take away from the downhill turn this conversation is starting to take. Only an awkward cough serves as a way to stall.
Okay, of course you're still mad. But whatever happened last night, I really am sorry. I'll apologize as many times as you want. If you want, I'd even kneel or something.
Ashton, an apology is nice and all, but that's not what I wanted to hear from you today.
Alright, fine, okay. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I don't know. I've honestly lost track of it by your third trip to the buffet table.
I wasn't... The drive up there took a bit. Can you blame me if I wanted to grab some appetizers?
Oh, come on, Ash! For the whole evening? For the whole party? Please don't tell me that's all you did, because I've never known you as someone who pigs out. You even took great lengths to avoid me. Should I also mention how you ignored Zach? Sometimes I get the feeling you don't want to be seen with us in public. Some friendship, huh?
You know it's not like that. It's never going to be like that, Becca.
I'll ask this again. Just what were you up to during the party? What were you doing? That you couldn't even take 2 seconds to make time for your friends?
I couldn't even look her in the eye. It wasn't that I wanted to avoid them. I did it to keep Zach safe. To keep Rebecca safe. Just in case. Client or family friend, it was still a party hosted by a person of interest. By a man accused years ago of murdering a person's wife to get what he wanted. But then Chief showed up, Hannah Wright happened, and Luke Wright just can't be bothered to die peacefully somewhere. All of a sudden, none of my original reasons mattered. If I was found out right there and then, hell, if Zach and Rebecca's connection with me was found out, who knows what might have happened. But Rebecca doesn't understand that, doesn't understand what I can and can't say to keep them from harm. It's all in her eyes, in the tight line of her lip, and her furrowed brows. The hurt. This day is just off to a wonderful start. First my case, now Becca. How do I even go about this? Insist it's confidential. It's easy.
It's confidential, Rebecca.
I wonder how many times I've told her that. And not just her, my dad, my mom, Zach, and even Isabella. How many times I've told them what essentially boiled down to mind your own business, to make sure they're all safe, to keep them out of danger. My job isn't a game. It isn't as glamorous as the television portrays it to be. I had thought so too as a child. I was so clueless back then, wasn't I? But boy, did I learn. The good guys don't always win. Justice isn't always served. Investigation is not looking at the crime scene once to get a eureka moment. It's sleepless nights at the crime lab with the tech guys. It's several days wearing the same clothes with Chinese takeout stains because I'm staking out a place. It's frustration when bureaucracy hinders you from looking into a case any further, or when you know the suspect is guilty but they get away scot-free on a technicality. It's seeing anger and pain and despair with every case.
I know you have a mountain of questions, but I've told you this so many times before. I can't say much more than that.
Still, the look on Rebecca's face, the resentment and the pain, it hurts me as well to think that I'm the cause of that. It's a familiar one too, something I've seen a lot over the years. I wonder how long it will take before Zach starts giving me the same one. Or until I've hurt Isabella in a way that any sincere apology won't be enough. What a mess. I'm a mess, and it's the people close to me who have to suffer for it.
I guess, if that's the case, there's nothing much I can do about it. You're off being a hero, I guess? I shouldn't rag on you for that.
I could never get used to how quick she just forgives me for whatever shitty thing I do. Zach and Isabella too. They've all been patient with me, unlike I with them. I don't deserve any of them for the kind of person I've turned out to be.
I'm hardly a hero, Becca. I'm just Ash.
I expect a retort, another one laced with bitterness. Instead, she laughs, half-hearted but barely a hint of cheer in it, but it's a laugh nonetheless. I honestly don't know what to make of that, what to do with myself upon hearing it. It's almost like the mere sound of it meant to pierce.
Well, the least you could have done is tell me. Maybe I could have helped, kept an ear and an eye out for you. I don't know. I could have been Irene Adler, maybe?
Her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes, but the mask, she tries so hard for me. I give her a smile of my own, though I imagine it comes off as unenthusiastic as hers. It's far easier to slip back to banter when it's like this, to just brush off everything. At least this way, we wouldn't have to deal with awful things.
So, woman, don't flatter yourself. Nancy Blue, more like.
Her sidekick would beg to differ, Ashette.
I couldn't stop a wry grin from forming in my lips. She probably still has the photo from that contest. Keeps it in her old diary. I never did find either of the two after I threatened to burn them. In the end, I just never brought it up again, hoping she'd just forget about the whole thing. But the small smile on her face says a lot. Those were good times. A lot simpler, a lot more peaceful. Now things have changed. We are no longer the same people we were as kids. No shit. Growing up together doesn't mean it always has to be just the two of us in the first place. It's a dumb notion to believe in when nothing ever remains constant. Things will inevitably change through the years. In fact, it already has, long ago. Not just with people we allowed into our respective lives, but also with us as people, as friends. It really does get complicated as we get older, doesn't it? Not everything has to be, though. Even if it's in the form of a promise, I have no idea when I'll be able to fulfill.
I swear, I'll explain when it's all over.
The silence afterwards brings an even heavier air between us. Something that Rebecca, thankfully, doesn't allow to linger more than necessary.
I suppose you have to go now, huh?
The situation's already awkward as it is. Dragging this out will only make it more, difficult? Messed up? As if it isn't already.
Back to your case again?
I don't really have to. I have no case. As far as the job is concerned, I have the weekend off until I have to report to Chief on Monday. Although I don't want to just throw in the towel on this. Orders are orders. This isn't like the movies. I don't get to say, fuck off, throw my gun and badge at him, become some vigilante, save the day, and get my job back. I'd rather get my ass thrown in jail than do any of that. But it's also not in my nature to sit still and do nothing. It'll drive me crazy if I just idle about. Besides, there's someone who has to know about this whole Luke Wright thing.
Yeah, I need to go talk to Professor Clark. And there's something else I need to look into.
That other matter she mentioned last night, specifically. Things even the news have been blasting out to the general populace lately. Evening, afternoon, morning, all deaths with the same modus blame on a single serial killer. But wasn't she also supposed to be meeting with the professor? What was up with the story? I mean, at the same morning? This is the early morning, right? So, early morning of the 30th. So she's meeting Professor Clark. This is after she met Professor Clark? Oh, yeah, probably, because it's right here, yeah. So when she came back.
Serengeti, early hours of the morning today. The fire was continued in the room and no other tenants were harmed, according to Lockport Police.
We're grasping at straws as far as these murders are concerned. In the first place, I'm not even the one heading this investigation. Yet, look at me treating it as if it's another high-profile case on my shoulder. How sad is that? Although all three of my friends have mentioned seeing something strange, I don't want to go into that line of thinking for now. Not yet, not until I've exhausted every logical argument I could throw at it. To be honest though, I don't know how to take all of this anymore. But I've already given Isabella my word. It would bother me if I didn't follow up on the promise I made to her. And after Rebecca's claims last night, there won't be enough sarcasm in the world if what my friends have been telling me is true. I can already hear Isabella's laughter, in fact.
Figures. What else can it be?
It's not another case. It's something else. That issue Isabella mentioned yesterday morning. I'm sure you remember. You were there.
Well, at least you're not neglecting all your friends.
Becca, I promised her I'll...
She doesn't wait for me to finish. With a roll of her eyes, she turns around and shuts the door in my face. I have no idea what I've said this time, but...
I probably deserve that.
Like, he's pretending, or... I mean, he's not that dense, right? I mean, you know she wanted his dick. Well, I just have to fix this some other time. By then, her temper should have cooled off significantly. Yeah, this is after she met with the professor. No? Oh, this is the day before. After the party. I thought after when she left the party, she took Ashton with... Ashton was the one who took her back to her place. And then she called the professor at night before she went to bed. And then she met the professor the next day. So I'm confused why this is October 29th. Rebecca confronted Ashton about what happened at the party the night before. Unable to tell her any details, the latter simply admitted it was confidential. Although Rebecca accepted this, her displeasure remained evident in her face. Okay, so she actually met the professor on the 30th, not the 29th. The party is on the 28th, right? Yes. Before the housewarming party. The housewarming party was the night of the 28th? Yeah, okay, and then... Okay, I guess he wants to meet the professor on 29th when he left her. Okay. Alright. And then she met the professor like a day after. 2 days after they had... A day after they had the... 2 days after the party. Okay. Hopefully. For now, I can't laze around. Gotta attend to things that matter more. Professor Clark first, deliver the bad news, then the issue with BRC and Isabella. Maybe I'll drop by Zach's, check on him, and hear what he has to say. He has also read that damn letter. I might as well, while I'm here, playing a paranormal detective. Or was it supernatural? I can't remember. Whatever, it wouldn't hurt anyone if I tried to get to the bottom of this. If nothing comes out of this, good. Everyone can shut up about stupid curses and we can finally get back on track with our lives. On to more important stuff. Is there something...
What you've done?
There's a moment of confusion when I don't see her familiar ponytail about, only to find her standing behind the door to her apartment seconds later. Isabella holds it open, only slightly, as if to hide from anyone who might happen to pass by. This early and on a lazy weekend, I doubt anyone would. But from the gap and what little light there is behind her, I could make out the appearance of someone who has already clearly gotten off from bed. Her hair is complete disarray, eyes still heavy with sleep. Who just clearly gotten off from bed. Yeah. And small pout on her lips. She hasn't even gotten out of her pajamas. I look away long before my sense of decorum kicks in. We might be friends. I even dare say we've grown closer over the years, but that doesn't extend beyond the bounds of propriety. Christ, even Rebecca never greets early visitors in her sleep clothes. Though maybe it's our fault why she's up this early. Still, heat makes a slow crawl up my neck. One that quickly downplay with a solid. I quickly downplay with a solid cough.
Isabella, you're up early.
Lame.
No, I'm not. I'm usually up at this hour. You're the one that usually sucks at getting up early.
Says the person who looks like she's just fallen out of bed.
Instead of the usual quip, she simply averts her gaze to some points beside her. And although it only flashes briefly across her face, an expression of hurt flickers in her eyes. It disappears the second she turns her attention back to me, but that moment has sent a worried twinge in my stomach. I've seen it on her plenty of times before, just never in a manner that unsettles. It feels, I don't know, off this time. I didn't say anything wrong, did I?
Hey, are you?
Anyway, was that Becca with you? You both sound like Mama and Papa when they fight. You're awfully loud. If we get another memo from the landlady, I'm asking the guard to ban you from ever entering this place.
Me? Becca's the one almost shouting.
Yeah, well, she lives here. You don't. You have no excuse. You're the suspicious-looking person.
Thanks. Glad at least one person appreciates how I pretty up this place.
Don't flatter yourself. This place would be so much better without having to see your face every few days.
She follows it up with another pout, but her ruffled appearance, particularly how puffy her eyes are, I noticed just now, takes away from the intimidating effect she's trying to show. Really, right now, she just looks more than an angry puppy. I might have laughed had it not given another nagging sense that something is definitely wrong with her. What? Has she been crying earlier? That is worrying. She rarely does that. The only time it happened, the one time I've ever seen her genuinely tear up over something, I think it was after Devlin Court, the night at the bridge. I want to ask. She seems determined to keep it to herself, though.
Belle, did something?
About yesterday, Ash. Things we talked about. Do you think we can take a look at it today?
We? I never said you're coming with me. Don't worry, I didn't forget about it. You'll be the first to know if I find anything.
No, I want to go with you. I'll be ready in a few. This won't take long.
Isabella, you really don't have to. I can handle it on my own. You'll just...
I won't get in the way, I promise. Besides, maybe I can help. You know, if there are files you want to check.
I don't like what she's implying. It's true LPD is having a hard time with this, but taking Isabella with me, it's out of the question. Under normal circumstances.
You're the one who's going to get in trouble if you do that.
You said it yourself. You need information. I can help you get that. And it's not like it matters anymore. I just don't want to stand around doing nothing today.
There it is again. The slight shift in her eyes, the mild crease forming between her eyebrows, and the mild slump in her shoulders while she crosses her arms tightly around herself. Like she's shielding herself from whatever painful thing there is out here. I have plenty of reasons why I shouldn't let her tag along. First and foremost, she's a civilian. Second, I have no concrete plan of action yet. I'm going into this blind. No matter how I look at it, it's simply better for her to just wait so she won't dragged into what might be another one of my failures. Her assumptions might be a dead end for all we know. But seeing that expression on her, hearing her speak those words out loud, in a desperate, almost pleading tone, I can't find myself to say no. So I give in, because right there, I see myself in her. The person who doesn't want to stay idle, who doesn't want to think of the problems haunting him.
Alright, 5 minutes.
What? You're timing me?
Well, I can't wait forever. I'm a very busy guy. 4 minutes and 45 seconds, Isabella.
I hate you so much. I'm taking back what I said last week. You haven't changed at all.
4 minutes and 30 seconds, 29, 28. I'd hurry if I were you.
Ugh, you're awful. I hope you never get a girlfriend.
She slams the door right after, although my chuckles, the mirth and the lightness in it, linger. With her, those have always come easy somehow, even as it echoes fade and only the ghost of a smile remains.
It's not like I'm looking for anyone else.
I want to tell her. It's not because I can't. I won't. I'm the one who has chosen not to until I fix myself, until I found myself underneath all that guilt and those lies I've been telling all these years. Oh, poor Becca. Disturbed by the ruckus outside her unit, Isabella reprimanded Ashton for the noise. The latter noted her disheveled appearance and puffy eyes, although before he could ask about it, she brought up the issue with BRC again and insisted they both look into it that night. That's a cute drawing. Because no matter how heavy the weight of these feelings are, I'm not yet worthy of them. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna end it here. 2 more characters to go. Hopefully that's how the game is gonna progress. Because I played this game for 20 hours, I think. It's a long visual novel. So we got Ashton here and then Luke. So if the game closes with Luke's chapter, that would be really interesting. That they would choose to do that. There's gonna be some revelation through Luke's perspective. So, all right, I'll be back tomorrow with some more of the letter. This game is very long. I didn't expect this game to be this long. I thought it was gonna be like 10 hours max.